Okay, thanks everyone.
Okay.
Well, good morning all. We're clearly here to talk about the road toll for 2018, and from our perspective, on the one hand, we are pleased to report that we've seen the lowest road toll ever recorded, both in fatal collisions and serious injury collisions since official records began around 1970. But on the other hand, we're disappointed that so many people are still losing their lives in road collisions or indeed are being seriously injured. We recall back in 1974 some 382 people lost their lives on our roads, as compared to last year where 80 people lost their lives and 589 were seriously injured. So it's very, very apparent that there has been great commitment by many in heeding the road safety message, in making improvements to roads and vehicles, and indeed focused enforcement and education campaigns, which have collectively contributed to the low road toll. We also know that both young and old people are being killed on our roads. Last year, 46 people over the age of 40 died, and 21 people under the age of 24 were killed on our roads. We also know, of course, that there's a very huge negative impact on family, friends, colleagues, emergency workers, just to name a few, and that many of those people will be scarred for life as a result of that trauma. Road safety is indeed very, very complex, and we certainly don't have all the answers to it, but it is everyone's responsibility. And if we want to continue to decrease the road toll, then it's important that all of us remain committed and focused to that particular aim. There were some really good positive trends that occurred last year. We saw that there were fewer fatalities involving motorcyclists and pedestrians, but our Achilles heel was the number of fatalities that occurred in the country region. Some 61 people were killed on country roads. And disturbing in that is that many of those people were actually what you would deem to be local to the area and hence knew the area. We know that those matters that we refer to as the fatal five still feature very highly in fatal collisions and serious injury collisions, those being drink and drug driving, speeding, people being distracted while driving, people driving dangerously or not wearing their seatbelt. Now, it is fair to say that most of the actions involving the fatal five are simply bad choices. They're not mistakes, but bad choices. You, for example, know if you've taken drugs or alcohol before driving. You know if you're not wearing a seatbelt. You know if indeed you're driving dangerously. And so to continue along that path gets down to a bad choice, not a mistake. And it's very important that people understand that. A fine is one thing, but being involved in a collision that kills or seriously injures someone has much, much higher consequences. So as we begin the new year, certainly from a police perspective, we would ask everybody to reflect on their driving behaviour and indeed their actions and responsibilities. And if we all do that, we can collectively contribute to even a much lower road toll, which is what we aim to achieve. So that's all from me. I'll hand over to the Minister for some comments and I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you very much for coming along today. Yeah, look, just to concur with what has already been said, and we understand that 80 people dying on our roads is 80 too many, and unfortunately police and emergency service workers have to deal with those incidents when they do occur, and we feel for those, and we feel for the families of those people that have lost family members in road traffic accidents, because it is just near impossible to see how they would recover from that, and our heart goes out to those families. Whilst it is good that the number has come down on a positive level, we do want to get that figure towards zero. So road safety, as we know, is a collective. It's done across the board. It's not just one area that has responsibility for road safety. We want to see everyone safer on our roads and continue to work towards keeping people as safe as possible and get that figure down to zero. Thank you.
Questions?
Yeah, questions.
Should we ask, obviously this is, it's down, but one that has gone up is number of cyclists who's gone from 2 to 7, from 17 to 18 over the years. Why has that gone up when other motorcyclists have gone down? Why has pushbike cyclists had an increase?
Well, thank you. Sorry about that. I thought you could get me from there. I don't know the answer. That's the critical point. We don't know all the answers to it. All we can do is continue to educate people, continue to have campaigned enforcement campaigns, continue to improve our vehicles and our roads and so on. But I do know from personal observations that there seems to be an awful lot more bike riders out there at the moment, so therefore collectively the numbers seem to have increased at the very like. But it does get down to, as I said before, everybody's responsibility in this. People need to seriously reflect on their driving behaviour. I mentioned that most of the fatal 5 are bad choices, simply that, not mistakes. Of course, there are a number of bike riders that we know have fallen off whilst riding in groups, who have hit loose gravel on the roads and have suffered serious injuries or fatal collisions. But we do work as closely as we can with all road safety organisations to continue to educate, continue to encourage people to ride safely. We have the Tour Down Under coming up, of course, and we work very, very closely with event organisers and road safety groups to make that the safest event that we possibly can.
There'll be a targeted effort during the tour. Obviously, a lot of people get on the bike after not being on the ride. There'll be a bit of a targeted effort to make sure they're sort of right and safe.
Oh yes, and history will show that the management of the Tour Down Under, by the manner in which we've been doing it, working in partnership with many, many groups, has been highly successful for this state in every aspect of its business, economy, safety and the likes. There are, of course, some legislative opportunities in there during the bike races itself that put certain restrictions on and enable us to move people out of potential harm's way during those events. But it's the events that occur after that that certainly will have sufficient police working to make sure that it's a safe event.
You mentioned the fatal 5, which was the biggest cause of fatal crashes in 2018?
Drink driving and speeding. The real big ticket items are still drink and drug driving and speeding are still the really big ticket items that we would like people to focus on.
The people in country areas presumably know the roads if they're local, so what's going on there and what can be done to keep them safe?
Well, it gets back to that attitudinal approach more than anything. I mean, we know that there's a whole heap of activity involved in the fatal 5, including fatigue and the likes, but it's about people being aware, self-awareness. It's about people accepting the responsibility that they have on the road, that not only could they kill or injure themselves, but they could kill or injure other people. So it's about that awareness, it's about the education, and it's about people just reflecting for a moment on where they are at a given point in time, and whether indeed, if they are tired, they should stop and rest. If they're not wearing their seatbelt, to put on their seatbelt, and certainly if they've been consuming alcohol or drugs, the best thing is simply not to drive, but to get some other way to go home.
Our country area is going to be the main focus for police in 2019 then, considering there's such a big proportion out of that total figure.
Yeah, sure. Look, we analyse the information that we have a lot. And that's how we work on the trends, and certainly we've identified that the trend in the country area is problematic, and so there has been, but there will be a greater focus on country regions for this exact purpose.
Can you give us some more detail on how police are going to fill the void once the Motor Accident Commission is gone?
Oh, well, I'll hand over to the Minister to talk about the broader MAC things. But in terms of police, well, we won't see there'll be any great change from our primary role, which is about enforcement and education. I do know that there is a program about MAC and the dividing up of its responsibilities, of which some will go to police, but those details are not yet clear, certainly from my perspective. But whatever responsibilities the police take on from there, we'll do with vim and vigour, as we always do.
Because like you singled out country roads, and those advertisements you see on the billboards along country roads are probably where a lot of people see a lot of those Motor Accident Commission, efforts. So, with that gone, are there any ideas on how you can actually maintain a presence and stay in people's minds on those dangerous roads?
Oh, well, certainly it's about, primarily from our perspective, it's about education and enforcement, but there is broader issues that the Minister may talk about, which is about improving of vehicles and improving of the roads in itself. But we will be out there being highly visible and active in our campaigns to encourage people to self-reflect on their driving and drive in a proper manner, which avoids fatal or serious injury collisions.
There's been a big, statewide police operation over the Christmas break and everything. Has that wrapped up, or what's ahead for the next couple of weeks?
We have a number of campaigns spread right throughout the year, and particularly around public holidays, where there's a concentrated campaign on traffic-related issues, and we'll certainly continue in that vein. And of course, over the Christmas period, I haven't got the results in yet, but certainly the campaign is continuing in its broad sense of people out there focusing on traffic-related issues. it is a serious matter.
Just to kind of few series are still coming up in your other habits and sports minister. It's time of year when cyclists do get a lot more flat, I suppose, there's a lot more taken to the road. What is your message to those people who are putting the bikes out at this time of year?
Yeah, for sure. Look, anyone using the roads, we want to be safe. We want cars and bikes to be sharing the road, and as we know, SAPOL are out on the streets. They are keeping check on cyclists and on people using their vehicles. But we know this is a great time for South Australia to have the influx of tourists and people coming into our state to use the facilities here and ride on our wonderful roads is fantastic. So we just ask everyone to be a bit patient, share the road, understand we're all in it together, we're all getting to the destination that we want to get to. Just do it with patience and share the roads together.
It's the same question I asked this Assistant Commissioner. How are police going to fill that void with Mac gone?
Yeah, well, as you'd understand, Ed, the Labor government sold off MAC, so it's been left as a shell of what it was. And as far as the promotions and the road safety element around the advertisements, that will be absorbed between SAPOL and also DIPTI. So extra resources will go in there to be delivering those programs. The road safety initiatives, the billboards you talk about, all those things will be assessed. They've run through the regions this year, and as you say, the regions are probably a part of the road safety element that wasn't as good as it could have been. So that's something that we will address. But SAPOL have a very strong road safety arm, as do DIPTI, and it is a collective. Road safety is done as a collective. So SAPOL will be doing more work in that space, and as will DIPTI, we'll make sure our roads are as safe as they can possibly be, and police will be policing the roads as they always do, and doing that road safety messaging work as well.
And the funding that was going to MAC in terms of that education and awareness, is that the same amount of funding going to police?
That's coming across to policing as well, and also will be done through DIPTI. We're just working that through. The Treasurer has made that really clear as to how that's going to work, and what will happen is some of the staff will come across and be in the role within SAPOL and some within DIPTI, but the road safety elements of SAPOL and DIPTI are first class and world class, and they continue to work together to make sure that we have the right policing message, but also the right roads and infrastructure to make people as safe as possible on our roads.
So just on a different issue, graffiti, do you know if there's any kind of spike in it over the holiday period?